I would like to instead talk about. Let's talk about this. So this post says, this is referring to something relatively kind of discoursey, discussion-oriented, preference-adjacent things about controller preference in the Tekken community. So Max says, if you're thinking about using that Hori pad, don't. I don't give a fuck if Chikrin wins the next 37 Evos. Pad feels like a Sega Dreamcast controller that's been sitting in the attic for 12 years. The D-pad has the longevity of a 2-year-old's white sneakers at the park. Okay, so maybe the quality control is bad. Because I know people who have this pad or have used this pad, including some of the really solid Tekken players who play at the highest level of play when it comes to NA play, like Inconsiderate Raccoon. Very, very solid streamer and player of the game. And he uses this pad. Hasn't had any issues with it. Right? Doesn't have really small longevity when it comes to the D-pad for him. But maybe the quality control is bad. I really don't like this narrative being pushed, though. Giving your opinion of it without necessarily critiquing the full build of the controller, or maybe putting out a review and giving a Twitter/X breeds this really bad quick take. We'll be talking about that later today. This snap quick take mentality of put it out there, talk about it real quick, and then never talk about it again. Don't really elaborate or explain yourself. That's too many characters. Don't do that. Because there's probably a world where this pad is the perfect person for someone, the perfect pad for someone, especially because it's only $60. It's about $60. It won an Evo. Chikrin uses it. I was supposed to get one of these to try it out for the YouTube channel, never got around to it. I'm really more of a stick player than a pad player anyway, so I don't know if I'd ever get around to it. But I've heard a lot of people asking around about this pad and talking about whether they think this pad is good for Tekken or not. And Mac just threw his hat into the ring about if he thinks the pad is good or not for competitive play, right? I think that there are some people who would absolutely disagree with him. Oops, it's not letting me. I can't think of who else would disagree with him. I think most people here are actually in full agreements with him, right? But there's a good few people, me included, right? I wish I could find my tweet. Maybe I can. I could probably just click my face and go to replies. That's probably really easy. And you'll see my reply here. Every stick or pad is personal preference. The worst stick in the world to me, Razor Panther Evo, could be the best stick in the world to someone else. Right? And same thing with this pad, right? You could thoroughly enjoy playing on this pad, but if all you see is reviewers shitting on it with no real, not reviewers, top players, high-level players shitting on it without any real justification of how long they've used it, if they've gone through multiple, if they've taken in other accounts other than their own, if it's only anecdotal evidence. That kind of happens a lot with all products. And the reason why I bring that up is because I talk about the Razor Panther Evo a lot as one of my least favorite arcade sticks that I own. But it's because I'm a tinkerer. And this stick doesn't really want you to tinker with it. They just want you to change the artwork. They don't want you to get in and change buttons and the lever and mess with boards. There is too much glue and epoxy on things, and it makes for a really bad modders experience. But it doesn't make for a bad playing experience if you're playing with it directly out of the box and you like Sanwa style components, because the original Razor buttons feel very similar to native Sanwa's, and the same thing with the lever. The lever is a native Sanwa with its stock 1-pound spring and the ball top and shaft cover, etc. So to tell people without much extra evidence or anything to just generically not try the pad might be the worst thing in the world. And I said that to someone else. I said it to Emery Reigns because he's a pretty big content creator, came from DOA, also plays multiple 3D fighters including Tekken, Soul Calibur, and Virtua Fighter. And he asked about the Hori pad and if it was worth trying across the timeline. And I told him, hey, maybe you should just try it. It's $60. And then go ahead and throw your review out on YouTube. It's easy YouTube content since you already do fighting game adjacent things, just like King J did. I believe King J was sent out the pad is the difference. But King J didn't have extremely negative things to say about the pad, even though he wasn't paid for his review. So I'm wondering if it's a quality control issue or if it's a preference issue. Because I've played on some of Hori's fight pads. I played on the Hori Fighting Commander, the PS4 and PS3 version, and I thought it was a really solid pad. I actually didn't dislike it at all. Maybe the newer version, the Octa, isn't so good. Maybe it uses a different D-pad, a different pivot, different actuation force on the membranes. I wouldn't know. But it is up to other people to do their due diligence and find out if they would like it or not. Because reviews, even coming from some of the most trusted people in the community, are hard to truly believe and trust, because it's all preference. At the end of the day, your controller choice is a preference. I really like the Hori Fighting Edge, the Hori Fighting Stick Alpha, and the Victrix Pro. Those could be the worst sticks in the world to some people. I actually know some people who don't like the Victrix. They say the board gives out fast, it's made of shoddy material on the inside other than the aluminum on the outside. They don't like the lack of customization on the lever side because it's hard for certain Korean style levers to fit without making modifications to the inside of the case. They don't like that it's hard to work with on the inside for certain screw inside buttons. They don't like the mounts or the detachable cable, that there's no internal space for the detachable cable, things like that. These are all preference things that make one $400 purchase totally worth it for one individual, but really bad for another. One $200 purchase, bad for one individual, but really good for another. Makes a $60 purchase that could be perfect for one individual feel like it could be a bad purchase for them or someone else. I'm a big fan of letting people know that preference is king. That looking at reviews and listening to your favorite players and content creators might help a little bit in the justification of buying something, but if it's cheap enough that you can afford it and can get rid of it easily, right? You have a large active local scene and it doesn't turn out to be for you, or you go to tournaments enough, you go to majors and regionals enough that you could probably sell the pad later or the stick later, there's no reason not to pick it up and give it a shot and try it out. I stand by Hori products. I'm actually a big fan of Hori's products from last generation and this generation. Currently, the only things they have out are two different fight pads. The Tekken 8 one, that's PC and Xbox. The Xbox and PS5 Hori Fighting Commander Octa. And then their myriad of different Hori Fighting Stick Alphas, which is one of my favorite sticks on the market right now. Give it a shot. I'm not sponsored by Hori. They don't fucking pay me to say this shit, but I do have a pretty big belief in their products, and I think that the vast majority of their products can work for most players if you give them a shot. But remember, it's all preference. You may like it, you may not. The person next to you who you think would hate that pad, it might be the perfect pad or stick for them. Anyways, this has just been a quick talk about remembering that preference is the biggest key to controllers in the FGC and even in gaming in general when it comes to keyboards and mouse as well. Keyboards and mice. In all of gaming. Comment down below how you feel about the Hori Fighting Commander Octa if you own one or have tried one at a local or a regional or a major. How did it feel in your hands? Do you think that it's as bad as Mac here says it is, as some players in his comment section have also said it is? Or do you think it's a pretty serviceable pad for the $60 entry point? Or do you think it's the best pad on the market even though it's only $60? Let me know down below. Like the video. Subscribe to the channel if you want more Talk Segment content. This has been Beanie Thuggish talking about controller preference and biased reviews, biased anecdotal evidence, signing out and saying peace.